Captain Elias Mercer had attended enough Galactic Council meetings to recognize their predictable rhythm. Pompous pronouncements, thinly veiled condescension, and the ever-present assumption that humanity was the galaxy's great mistake. Today was no different. "Let us summarize the matter," intoned High Speaker Voral of the Zelax Dominion, his bioluminescent tendrils curling in amusement. "Earth's apex predators, your bears, your so-called great cats, your aquatic leviathans, are, in essence, unimpressive." Chuckles rippled through the chamber. Various species exchanged knowing glances, mandibles clicking, gelatinous forms, undulating in silent mirth. The Tevnok warlords, a race of towering, chitin-armored warriors, scoffed openly. They had war beasts that could level forests. What was a lion to them? Mercer remained composed. "With respect, our strength has never come from our predators alone. Earth's true power lies in adaptability, innovation, and problem-solving." An expected response from a lesser species," scoffed Councillor Orgrax of the Grawl Consortium. "But pragmatism alone does not win wars. Strength does." The chamber grew silent as the discussion shifted to its true purpose: war. The Dragnath, a vicious expansionist species with a hive-like military structure, had begun sweeping through the frontier. Human colonies had already suffered heavy losses. Mercer and his team had come seeking aid, only to be dismissed. "Humanity is ill-equipped to face the Dragnath," continued Voral. "We do not wish to see another fledgling species obliterated, but our forces cannot be wasted on lost causes." A murmur of agreement swept through the chamber. Humanity was being abandoned. Dr. Camilla Joe, seated beside Mercer, tapped urgently at her tablet, her sharp brown eyes scanning lines of data. She had been humanity's premier xenobiologist, before war had forced her into tactical analysis. Now she leaned toward Mercer and whispered, "They won't give us soldiers, so let's give them a demonstration." Mercer arched a brow. "What are you suggesting?" She turned her screen toward him, revealing a live feed from an Earth research facility. A small, unassuming creature scurried across a reinforced enclosure, its short, stocky frame moving with deceptive agility. Mercer frowned. "A honey badger? You want me to pitch a honey badger as a weapon?" "Not just a honey badger," Joe corrected. "The honey badger. We've enhanced them. Mild neural uplifts, durability adjustments, a pheromone tracking system. Imagine a predator that does not fear pain, adapts to threats, and refuses to stop attacking even when mortally wounded." Mercer exhaled slowly. "And you think they can handle the Dragnath?" Joe smiled. "I think they're about to rewrite the rules of warfare." Within hours, Mercer and Joe sat aboard a small transport bound for Outpost Theta 9, a frontier colony under imminent Dragnath threat. Two others joined them on this desperate mission. Lieutenant Juno Torres, a former recon specialist turned wildcard strategist, lounged in her seat, idly flipping a combat knife between her fingers. "So let me get this straight," she drawled. "The Council laughed us out of the room, so now we're dropping some angry rodents onto an alien war front?" "They're not rodents," Joe corrected. "And yes," Torres grinned, "I'm in." Arjun Patel, the team's engineer and optimist, rubbed his temples. "I can't believe this is our plan." "It's a brilliant plan," Joe countered. "What do we know about Dragnath psychology? They dominate through sheer terror. Their soldiers have never faced a species that doesn't fear them. What happens when we introduce something that fights them not out of strategy, but sheer, bloody-minded determination?" "You're saying we break them mentally?" Mercer mused. "Exactly." Torres chuckled. "You realize if this works, we'll never live it down, right? Humans, the race that weaponized honey badgers." Joe grinned. "I can live with that." As they approached Outpost Theta 9, Distress signals flared across their console. The Dragnath were already attacking. The perimeter defense had crumbled and civilians scrambled for shelter. "No time for tests," Mercer said grimly. "We deploy now." The ship's cargo bay doors slid open, revealing a row of reinforced containment crates. Inside, the enhanced honey badgers stirred. Each one wore a small tracking harness, their eyes gleaming with unrelenting focus. Mercer took a deep breath. "Let's see what happens when the galaxy's most relentless killers meet something that doesn't know how to stop fighting." He slammed the release button. The honey badgers were unleashed. The transport vessel shuddered as it breached the atmosphere of Outpost Theta 9, its hull resonating with the distant thuds of anti-aircraft fire. Captain Elias Mercer tightened his harness, his gaze fixed on the viewport where plumes of smoke marred the horizon. "Status report," he commanded, his voice cutting through the tension. Lieutenant Juno Torres, her fingers dancing over the console, responded, "Perimeter defenses are compromised. Dragnath forces have breached the eastern quadrant. Civilian evacuation is at 30%. Dr. Camilla Joe, clutching a containment unit housing their secret weapon, muttered, "We need to deploy now, Elias. Every second counts." Mercer nodded, turning to Arjun Patel, their engineer. "Arjun, prepare the drop. Juno, coordinate with ground control and clear us a path." As the team moved with practiced precision, the gravity of their mission weighed heavily upon them. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity's plight, leaving them to fend off the Dragnath alone. Their last hope lay in an unorthodox strategy: unleashing genetically enhanced honey badgers against the alien invaders. The vessel's bay doors yawned, open, revealing the war-torn landscape below. Arjun activated the release mechanism, and a dozen reinforced pods plummeted toward the surface, each containing a highly aggressive mammal engineered for combat. "Pods away," Arjun confirmed, sweat beading on his brow. Juno's voice crackled. Over the intercom, "Ground control reports Dragnath units converging on the drop zone. They're in for a surprise." On the surface, chaos reigned. The Dragnath, towering reptilian warriors with exoskeletal armor, advanced relentlessly, their weapons decimating anything in their path. Colonists scrambled for cover, their faces etched with despair. Then, the pods struck the ground, hatches bursting open. From each emerged a creature no larger than a terrier, but with the ferocity of a cornered wolverine. These were no ordinary honey badgers. They had been augmented for increased strength, resilience, and aggression. One Dragnath warrior, its mandibles clicking in curiosity, approached the nearest creature. In a blur of motion, the badger lunged, its claws rending through the alien's armor with shocking ease. The Dragnath roared in pain, attempting to dislodge the tenacious attacker, but the badger's vice-like grip held firm. Across the battlefield, similar scenes unfolded. The honey badgers, undeterred by the size or weaponry of their foes, targeted vulnerable joints and exposed flesh. Their relentless assault sowed confusion and fear among the Dragnath ranks. From the command vessel, Mercer and his team monitored the operation. Dr. Joe's eyes gleamed with a mix of pride and vindication. "It's working," she whispered. Juno smirked. "Never thought I'd see the day when a badger took down a behemoth." Arjun, ever the pragmatist, cautioned, "This is just the first wave. We need to maintain momentum." Mercer agreed. "Prepare for Phase 2. Deploy the pheromone beacons to guide our allies toward the main Dragnath encampment." As Arjun programmed the beacons, he couldn't help but marvel at the irony. In their darkest hour, humanity's salvation lay in the unlikeliest of champions. The beacons descended, emitting a scent imperceptible to humans but irresistible to the enhanced badgers. With predatory focus, the creatures redirected their assault, converging on the heart of the Dragnath forces. Panic spread among the alien ranks. Accustomed to being the apex predators, they now faced an enemy that defied their understanding. Their formations crumbled, and retreat became a chaotic rout. Back on the vessel, the team watched as the Dragnath fled, their once formidable army, reduced to disarray. Dr. Jo allowed herself a triumphant smile. Adaptability and innovation. That's humanity's true strength. Mercer placed a hand on her shoulder. Let's secure the outpost and tend to the wounded. This victory is just the beginning. As the sun set over Outpost Theta 9, the colonists emerged from their shelters, gazing in awe at the retreating enemy. Hope, once a distant memory, flickered anew. And aboard the command vessel, plans were already underway for the next phase of their unorthodox warfare. In the aftermath of the unexpected victory at Outpost Theta 9, Captain Elias Mercer and his team found themselves at the center of a rapidly shifting battlefield. The Dragnath, once an unstoppable force, were now in disarray, their morale shattered by the relentless assault of humanity's unorthodox weapon, the genetically enhanced honey badgers. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the scarred terrain, Dr. Camila Jo stood atop a makeshift command post, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoldering debris and the distant echoes of retreating alien forces. "We've bought ourselves some time," she murmured, her voice tinged with both relief and lingering concern. Lieutenant Juno Torres approached, her usually irreverent demeanor tempered by the gravity of their situation. "Time, yes, but for what? The Dragnath won't stay down for long. They'll regroup, adapt." Dr. Jo nodded, her mind racing through potential scenarios. "That's why we need to stay ahead. Our initial success was due to the element of surprise. We can't rely on that again." Arjun Patel, ever the pragmatist, joined them, wiping soot from his hands. "The Badgers performed beyond expectations, but they're not invincible. We need to enhance their capabilities, perhaps integrate them more seamlessly into our tactical operations." Before Dr. Jo could respond, Captain Mercer emerged from the command tent, his expression a mask of determination. "We've received intel from Central Command. The Dragnath are amassing a larger force, likely in retaliation for today's setback. We have limited time to prepare." Torres let out a low whistle. "So what's the plan, Captain? We can't just throw more Badgers at them and hope for the best." Mercer met her gaze, a glint of resolve in his eyes. "No, we can't. Dr. Jo, I need you to expedite any enhancements you have in mind. Arjun, work on fortifying our defenses and ensuring our deployment mechanisms are flawless. Juno, coordinate with the remaining ground forces and integrate our new tactics into their training." Dr. Jo hesitated for a moment. "Elias, there's another option I've been considering. It's risky, untested, but it could turn the tide in our favor." Mercer's brow furrowed. "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "We've been focusing on enhancing the Badger's physical attributes and aggression. But what if we could establish a rudimentary communication link? Not control per se, but a way to direct their instincts more precisely." Arjun's eyes widened. "You're talking about neural interfacing. That's ambitious." Dr. Jo nodded. "Ambitious, yes, but if successful, we could coordinate their attacks, target strategic points, and maximize their impact." Torres crossed her arms. "And what's the catch?" "There's always a catch. The technology is experimental," Dr. Jo admitted. "There's a risk of feedback, potential harm to both the operator and the Badger, and we don't have time for extensive testing." Mercer weighed the options, the weight of command pressing heavily on his shoulders. "If we do this, who would be the operator?" Dr. Jo met his gaze evenly. "I would. I designed the interface. I understand the risks." Arjun interjected. "Camila, if something goes wrong, I know the stakes, she replied firmly, but if this gives us an edge, it's worth the risk. Mercer nodded slowly. All right, begin preparations. We'll support you in any way we can. As the team dispersed to their respective tasks, Dr. Joe retreated to her makeshift lab, the weight of her decision settling heavily upon her. She meticulously assembled the neural interface, her hands steady despite the turmoil within. Hours later, as dawn's first light crept over the horizon, the team reconvened. Dr. Joe stood ready, the interface secured, a modified helmet linking her neural pathways to the lead honey badger. "Are you sure about this, Camilla?" Mercer asked quietly. She offered a determined smile. "For humanity." As she activated the device, a surge of sensory input flooded her mind. She could feel the primal instincts of the badger, its unyielding ferocity tempered by a newfound clarity. I can guide them," she whispered, astonishment coloring her voice. Mercer placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then let's show the Dragnath what happens when they underestimate humanity." With renewed purpose, the team prepared for the impending assault, their unorthodox alliance between human ingenuity and animal tenacity, poised to defy the odds once more. As the Dragnath forces regrouped, their ominous warships casting long shadows over Outpost Theta 9, Captain Elias Mercer and his team braced for the impending assault. The air was thick with tension, the distant rumble of alien machinery growing, louder with each passing moment. Dr. Camilla Joe, now linked to the lead honey badger through the neural interface, stood at the forefront, her eyes closed in concentration. She could feel the primal energy of the creature coursing through her, a symbiotic connection that amplified both their instincts. "They're coming," Lieutenant Juno Torres reported, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Multiple units advancing from the east and south. They're trying to flank us." Arjun Patel, monitoring the defense systems, interjected, "Perimeter turrets are online, but they won't hold for long against a concentrated attack." Mercer nodded, his mind racing. "We need to strike first. Camilla, are you ready?" Dr. Joe opened her eyes, a fierce determination burning within them. "Ready." With a deep breath, she focused her thoughts, channeling directives to the enhanced honey badgers. Through the neural link, she guided them toward the advancing Dragnath, their small but formidable forms moving with unprecedented coordination. As the alien forces closed in, the ground erupted beneath them. The badgers, striking from concealed tunnels, targeted the Dragnath's vulnerable points with surgical precision. Armor was shredded, weapons disabled, and the once dominant invaders found themselves on the defensive. From the command post, Torres watched in awe. "It's like they know exactly where to hit." "That's Camilla's doing," Mercer replied, pride evident in his voice. "She's turned our greatest liability into our most potent weapon." However, the Dragnath were quick to adapt. Recognizing the threat, they deployed energy shields and recalibrated their tactics, focusing on the elusive badgers. The tide of battle began to shift once more. Sensing the escalating danger, Dr. Joe pushed the neural interface to its limits, urging the badgers to retreat and regroup. The strain was palpable, beads of sweat forming on her brow. "Camilla, you need to rest," Arjun urged, concern etched on his face. "The feedback could cause permanent damage." She shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "We don't have the luxury of time. If we fall back now, it's over." Mercer stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're in this together. Juno, coordinate an airstrike on their shield generators. Arjun, prepare the EMP charges. We'll create an opening for Camilla and her team." As the battle raged on, the combined efforts of the human defenders and their tenacious allies began to turn the tide. The Dragnath, unprepared for such relentless resistance, faltered. One by one, their warships retreated, the once imposing fleet reduced to scattered remnants. Exhausted but triumphant, Dr. Joe disconnected from the neural interface, her body trembling from the exertion. Mercer caught her as she stumbled, offering a grateful smile. "You did it, Camilla. We all did." She managed a weak nod, her eyes reflecting both relief and determination. "This is just the beginning. They'll be back, and we need to be ready." Arjun approached, his expression a mix of concern and admiration. "Next time, we'll have more than just badgers up our sleeves." Torres chuckled, the tension of the battle giving way to a moment of levity. Who knew our fiercest warriors would be pint-sized furballs? As the team surveyed the battlefield, the sun breaking through the clouds, a renewed sense of hope washed over them. Against all odds, they had stood their ground, proving that ingenuity and resilience could triumph over brute force. But as Dr. Joe gazed toward the horizon, she knew the war was far from over. The Dragnath would return, and humanity's survival would depend on their ability to adapt and innovate. With her team by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.